What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the On Purpose podcast, where one, it's our honor to be here with you. It's a privilege to take time from your day to get you thinking, get you moving, get you maybe looking in the mirror and going, wait, am I being my best me today? And that's one of the things I'm excited about for this week's guest, Brett Penninger, the mind behind Be Larger Than, a platform built around helping people step into bigger, more intentional versions of themselves. And what I love about the research I've done and looking into his background is that he's big on a message about living a life that's larger than your circumstances. And I think so many times it's easy for us to fall into and go, maybe it's just not meant to be. Maybe this is where I'm supposed to go and not challenge ourselves. So I'm excited to get this conversation started with Brett. Brett, my newest friend, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jared. I couldn't be more excited to be here today and can't wait to have a conversation to see what we can learn from each other.
Oh, amen. But now here's what I'm gonna tell you, Brad. I know you're a wrestler. I looked you up, man. I know you got some moves and but we just don't jump into that championship round. We got to have a little warm up. I got to get you moving your feet a little bit, get you kind of jogging in a circle. So you ready for your warm up?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go, baby.
All right, let's do it. All right, Brett, if your life had a theme song, what's your entrance song?
Um, that's a powerful question. And I don't know the name of the song, but I know how it goes. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. Ain't
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
gonna slow me down. Uh-oh. I got to keep on moving. That
Yeah,
would be
Culture
it.
Club.
There you go.
Yeah. Dude, I gotta tell you, Brett, hats off to you. You're the first one to sing your song on the show.
Well, I forgot the name of the song, but I have it in my head because I've used that more times than I could shake a stick at or really count throughout my lifetime, especially when met with adversity and needing to just get back up from what felt like a catastrophic defeat and or disappointment.
I love it. All right. Favorite book or a book you find yourself going back to?
Ooh, the yeah, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is right at the top of the list for that. And they've had Dr. Stephen Covey has had additional, renditions of it, but that one is at the top of the list for me. Um, because of how it just lays out the 7 habits of highly effective. And he doesn't say successful, effective, which is many people associate success with something that we had talked about prior to really getting jumping on here today. Success is what people see called a celebrity or a sports star or a political figure or somebody who has public acclaim, and success couldn't be further from that, especially when we understand that a lot of times that comes with um, some downsides that people do not see until they find out. So,
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Is that success comes with responsibilities, right? Yeah. All right. So the next question kind of ties into that. What's a small habit that you've been doing that gives you energy lately?
whew, um, boy, that's a small habit that I've been doing that gives me energy. Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's not really a small habit, but for some it might be. Every time I go to bed, I visualize my future. I look at the day, but what I really do is I start looking at what it is that I want to do, um, dreams that I have that have yet to be fulfilled, and have a lot of gratitude for the beauty of looking at both the challenges and the joys and the victories of each day. So just keeping that thought path forward.
Yeah. That's what, what about, what do you find that works about doing it right before bed versus like first thing in the morning that is working for you?
Well, um, where focus goes, energy flows. And I want to acknowledge the power and the beauty of what has occurred during that day and give all of it gratitude. And that includes when crap hits the fan and you're like, oh my gosh, are you serious? This is what I have to deal with. And it includes the joy that comes with that. When I put my attention on being grateful and what I'd like for my future to look like, both the blessings that have occurred up to that point in time and what I want to create in the future, that focus pulls energy to me on a day to day basis to not only keep moving, but move with intention, act with intention, love with intention, that then produces the results that look like sometimes, how does that happen? Well, it all starts with the 6 inches between our ears.
Yeah. No, I think, I love what you said there, mentioning even, like, the moments where you're like, "Oh my gosh, why is this happening?" Because when we do what you're talking about, we reframe that, "Why is this happening?" Well, it's happening to teach you something or to learn something
Amen. Amen.
or to test your will to see how bad you want it.
Yes. So can I share a real
Love
powerful
it.
story that just occurred this past week?
Yeah, please.
So my family, and I don't need to go through all of the people that are part of it, but my brother and sister-in-law, their two children, my nieces, my wife, and I, and a nephew and his better half. We all went to Portugal, and I've been to Portugal multiple times, and just love, love, love everything about it. My family and everything. This particular trip, it was like a love affair. It was like, oh my gosh, this is even better than the time before, and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm over here knowing the laws of the universe that for every high, there's a low. And if you get infatuated with the highs, it's only a matter of time until our Heavenly Father, God, Yahweh, Allah, however you assign it, the universe will start to right size that. And so I'm going, man, y'all are a little too excited about what's going on, but I'm happy that you're happy. Fast forward a few days into the trip, we went to Lisbon, and all of a sudden we stopped down at Cascais, and it's a beach town. We were there for an hour. We came back, and our car had been broken into. We had many of our bags and valuables stolen, and it was like, wah, wah, wah. Oh my gosh, this beautiful time. And all of a sudden this happens. Well, I tell you what, there were blessings within that. We went through the challenge. The country was on strike on the day that we were supposed to leave, which forced us to stay another 3 days, which forced us to look at how we were going to get our passports back, which forced us to not only be grateful that we even had what was still left, they didn't get all of our luggage, but we were able to find most of everything that had been lost based on being able to track our iPads and AirPods. And so I tell you, it's the essence of everything that we're talking about. With the highs come the lows, and the ability to recognize it and be grateful for all of it. From that challenge, a lot of blessings, and from those blessings come challenges. And it was probably the most memorable and beautiful trip I've been on in a long time.
Yeah, and that's so well said, and I bet in 10, 15 years, the memory of that trip will be how you responded to the adversity.
Absolutely. Right. And I don't know that it would be as memorable if we didn't have the adversity as part of it. Like, oh my gosh, remember when we had our van broken into and we lost our passports? And it just, one of those things that make the memories so much more fulfilling and powerful.
Yeah, and I think that's such a big message, right? Like, everybody feels good when things are going great, but it's how we respond when things take a turn that we didn't expect that
Yes.
really create those crazy memories, right? Like, I share that with my kids all the time. Like, tell me a time you woke up and you're like, "Oh, that went perfect. It was so easy. I wanna do it again." Like, you don't usually do that because you didn't learn anything in the process.
Exactly. You know, in the book that I just recently completed in the fall of last year, Larger Than Life in Pursuit of Discovering Your Full Potential, one of the things that I share in that is being grateful for the journey. And part of being grateful for the journey is everything that I'm talking about is that with the highs will come the lows, and with the lows will come the highs. Um, it's how the universe and the physical and spiritual world in which we live operates. It's always looking for balance. When you understand that, you also understand a perspective that most people put themselves in between success and failure. And if they're moving towards success, they're moving away from failure. However, if they're moving towards failure, oh, I didn't pass that test. Oh, I broke up with I thought would be the love of my life or whatever, then they're moving away from success. And with that perspective, if you want to be successful, the one thing that you want to avoid at all cost is failure because it's taking you further away from the very thing that you want. The reality is it doesn't work that way and it never has. It always starts with the seed. It starts with you, with the individual. And we have to go through this thing called failure before we then can experience the success that follows that. And if we don't understand that, as soon as we hit failure, we can have a mindset that just capitulates us. We're like, oh my God, why did this happen to me? Well, it's on the way, it's not in the way. And that little shift can make a powerful difference in not making it easier or you're happy when you have a challenge, but go, okay, what is this teaching me? Because I know that what I'm up to is going to be possible.
I love it. I love it. Brett, what's a mantra or a quote that stuck with you throughout your life?
Uh, oh man, a mantra or quote. Greater is he who is within you than he who is in the world. That would be a big one.
Yeah,
Um, Having a connection to a source higher than yourself and knowing that we are spiritual beings living a human existence. And from that standpoint, we are infinite. We are energy. And knowing that through that energy, the oneness that we have as human beings and the blessings that we have to be human beings living on this experience called planet Earth, um, is just magical to think about the just the grace that's given that we're able to have that as part of ourselves and to be able to express that, knowing that no matter what's occurring, what's happening, there's a connection that's higher than ourselves that can help mitigate it, that can support us, that can push us, that can pull us, that can do whatever is needed in order to have us experience what we're meant to do while here on earth.
I love it. Yeah, our responsibility is to show up, right? And to continue to
Amen.
show up each day.
Amen.
And then the rest of it will go where we're supposed to be.
Well, with intention, man, there's so many directions to go on this. Going back to where focus goes, energy flows. Um, and the first question you asked me, what gives me energy? And it's thinking about what I'd like to occur and dreams and goals or whatever, and having gratitude for what has occurred. When whatever you put your attention on is what you're going to find. And so if you put your attention on all that's going bad for you or all that's not good for you or woe is me or why did that happen, you're going to get that compounded. And sometimes that's where the importance of intention becomes so important. Sometimes that becomes so devastating that you can't get out of it. And that's where a lot of anxiety shows up or depression or even suicidal thoughts or just giving up on life. One way to shift that is to either have support or have someone or do it yourself by who you surround yourself with or what you start filling your mind and body with on what it is that you do want. Have somebody that uplifts you and go, what if it were possible? And that energy shift starts to then lift you out of the doldrums and create a new possibility that you may not have considered because your focus was only going on what you didn't want the challenge, how bad it is, and woe is me. That little shift can make a massive difference in helping the laws of the universe work in your favor because that's how it works.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I love it. All right, I got one last warm up question for you. If you had one word to describe the season of life you're in right now, what would that word be?
spirit.
Ooh, good one.
It would be spirit. Several years I wrote, not wrote, I read a book called Manifest Your Destiny by Dr. Wayne Dwyer. And in it, he talked about four stages of life. The athlete being the first one, and not everybody goes past that, but the athlete, when it's all about yourself and your physical appearance and everything else. And then next stage, if you get past that, is when you go into the warrior mode. And typically that's around, puberty and adolescence, where it's like I have to, stake my claim in the world and keep this moving, get my job, establish my family, all of those things. And some people never get past that and they spend their entire life there. The next stage being the statesman or the statesperson, where you've conquered what you needed to, you've done most everything that you set out to do, and now it's about paying it forward and giving it back. Some people stay there. The next level, and it's the same thing in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, called self actualization, is where at the spirit level, you start to get that we really are all one, and that anything that we resist in somebody else just means that that's something that's sitting here with us. And so you start to get a oneness and a beauty and looking at people and understanding people, starting with yourself. It's not about somebody else, it's always here. And when you get that, then that spirit, you start to understand not just the grace and the beauty and the power, but you really start to get the power in paying it forward. You start removing the judgment that oftentimes shows up on people should be different than who they are. And the world would be better if they were only more like me. So that's the word that really stands out for me.
Spirit. I love it. I love it. You feeling warmed up, Brett? I
I'm
feel
I'm
like
I'm
you're
warmed
good.
up.
Hey, I in doing research, I found something that I wanted to kind of start with, and that was a story I heard you share. I think it was high school. You were undefeated going into the state tournament, and then you suffered two quick losses. Fairly early in the tournament, and you had mentioned that your mom the next day, like you woke up and you thought the world was kind of over. Like, oh my gosh, I'm undefeated now. I'm out of the tournament, and she talked to you about something you mentioned earlier, and that was to trust your process. Would you
Yeah,
mind sharing that story with us?
man. There's some things that hit so hard that when they're brought back up, I feel goosebumps as if I'm there all over again, and that was well over 40 years ago, right? So yes, I was on an undefeated streak like there was no tomorrow, and it was my first major one, and it was just so fulfilling. And I got the accolades, and I was in the news, and I was winning, and I was reaching my goals. And then right before the state tournament, I didn't make it to the state tournament. I lost. I was
Okay.
the number four ranked wrestler in the state, and I mean everything was going my way. Devastated. That next day, I see in the newspaper, Penninger loses state bid. So it's not about who won, it's who loses. I'm like, and I'm just crying in my mother's bosom, literally. And she's like, hey, listen, I don't know why you lost, but greater who is he who is within you than he that is in the world. And you are not finished. Losing is not final. And she goes, ultimately, be grateful for the journey. And I'm like, how am I supposed to be grateful for the journey when I just lost? I failed you. I failed my school. I failed my family. I failed everybody. And she's like, Freddie, she would call me that. She's like, be grateful for the journey because this will lead to something that you cannot see now, but I can and God can. And I'm like, mm. But I did that. I did that. It was a long process. This wasn't an overnight. The next day, I'm like, okay, it's all good. It was multi-month process, but I look back at that and it was a tipping point that put in motion the ability to not only withstand hardship, but everything that I'm sharing with you, that victory is on the way or challenge is on the way and not in the way. And the blessings that have occurred from that loss that put a domino effect of things that have now shown up in my life for better and for worse. Um, that is the just the foundational lesson that really created all of that for me.
Talk me through, if you don't mind, let's stay on this for a second, the process of moving past it and not expecting it, like you said, it's not gonna be done tomorrow. Like, it's gonna be a process. Just like getting good enough to be undefeated was a process of continuous practice and performing. The process of bouncing back is also multi-step.
It is. Um, in my case, I had the gift of parents who could really support me in that. I had the gift of a coach and a mentor who was also a fellow teammate of mine who could support me in that. Um, and the way they supported me is everything that we've discussed thus far. Is they reset the goal. It's like, hey, listen, okay, this goal is done. You didn't hit it. That didn't happen, but you're not done. I had another year to go. So now let's start planning there. And what are we going to need to do so that we don't run into the same problem before? And what didn't you do in the past? Now you have visibility. You know, they say hindsight is 2020. Well, when you can look back at that challenge, you're like, what occurred to create that? So what could I do differently to not create that in the future? The shifting of the perspective and how you look at it is what then gives you the power to transform challenge into victory and to not make victory the only goal. Because even in victory, there's so much more to learn. And so, what I really got from that and a process that I've learned from some incredible human beings, and I can see it play itself out. As a wrestler, Penn State right now is
Yeah.
they are the juggernaut. And what Kale Sanderson, who I personally know, is doing there is breathtaking. One of the things that makes him so powerful and different is he teaches his team and his individuals not to focus on the winning. The winning will take care of itself if you do enough of the right things. And oftentimes, the best thing that can happen is losing because it will teach you what winning can't. I had a great mentor of mine who would always say, I ain't never learned nothing in good times, right?
Yeah, I
And
love it.
that's so true.
Yeah.
So the process is recognizing that failure is not final and fatal. And if you keep your eye on the prize, or if you're in a doldrums and things are really challenging, just entertain the possibility of it. It can start shifting where your energy goes. It can start shifting where that intention flows. And it can start bringing you not only out of it, but recognizing the gift that it provided you. And that's where you get excited about taking on life, baby. Like Rocky, bring it on.
Yeah, no, that's well said, and I saw something else that it had come up kind of as a theme in some of the research I'd done, and that's talking about the tendency people have to shrink themselves or to shrink their identity when they're faced with something like you faced there, right? Like, it'd have been easy to just shut your curtains, hide in your room, be like, "Okay, maybe wrestling's not for me. I'm moving this other way." And where do you so I guess my question for you is, where do you see that people shrink their identity without even realizing they're doing it?
Well, and incredibly, I just love this, Jared. Powerful, powerful questions, right? Um, Dr. Stephen Covey talks about this in the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People really powerfully. And what that is most of us base our identity on what other people say about us. And that's as we're moving from dependence, we're dependent, as human beings, we're the most dependent animal species on planet Earth. when we're born, we cannot survive without people taking care of us. And that's not true for a bird who can fly just about right away, or for an animal who can start walking and everything else. So when we move from dependence to independence to interdependence, that journey along the way, when we're dependent, our self image is only based on what other people are saying. So if somebody says, "Oh my gosh, you're attractive," I'm like, "I am." And now I start believing that I'm attractive. Or, "You're just not that smart." "Oh, I guess I'm not that smart." Well, when we start going from dependence on other people's views and what they believe on us, which then frames our thought process, we then move into independence. And that typically happens around puberty and so forth. And now it's all about fighting back and no, I can do it. And you start that energy that comes with that. Ultimately, we want to get to an interdependence, realizing that we are not the alpha and the omega, that the world does not only revolve around us, which we get big time in puberty, and that we are part of it. And there is no I in team. However, team is necessary for any great accomplishment. And I'm not talking about an athletic team. I'm not talking about a professional team. I'm talking about understanding that as an athlete. Let's use that as an example. If your parents don't get you to school, you then don't have the opportunity to compete. If your teachers don't teach you, you don't have an opportunity to compete. If your coach doesn't help you, if your teammates aren't there to train with you, if you don't have transportation to all of a sudden there's a whole village that makes your individual competition possible. So have gratitude for the interdependence that we have as people and take the focus off of just me, 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 that can then translate itself into we.
Yeah, and I love that. You call it teammates, and I agree with that. And a lot of times in here, I'll talk about our community, right? In our circle of five. And think about just how different things would have been for you if your parents would have said, "It's okay, just you don't have to deal with it. Like we'll just pretend it didn't happen." Or your coaches would have said, "Don't worry about it," right? Like, but you had people that were like, "No, no, no, Brett, this is part of the deal. You signed up for this."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you get around successful people, the classic birds of a feather fly together, right? When you get around successful people, they've been where you're going. And so they can provide that wisdom that you don't understand at the time, like in it, like a great parent. They're like, I've seen this before. And, I don't know about you, Jared, but me as a child, uh, I'm just going to be straight. I thought I got away with a lot more than I actually did, that my parents knew that they knew that I didn't know that they knew.
Brett, I can't admit to that. My mom listens to this show every week.
Oh, she knows. She knows,
Yeah.
So anyway, having somebody who can see something that you have yet to experience and guide you along the way and kind of help you can make all the difference in the world on really being able to understand the process of what it looks like.
And getting your ego out of the way to actually listen.
Ooh.
Right? I'm not gonna lie, Brett, when I watch the world today and I see grown adults that are elected to office and can't collaborate, can't cooperate, can't communicate, I just look, I'm like, our egos are so big in certain circumstances that we refuse to admit, Brett can teach me something right now.
Well, what comes around goes around.
I hope so.
It always comes back. It always comes back. So when you get into a state of being what word can I use? Being the biggest king in the room, there will be just a matter of time before I've heard it by Zig Ziglar. He said, "Be careful on who you're walking, stepping on to get where you want to go, because when you fall, they're going to do the same thing back to you." So at the same time, it always comes back. If you have an ego that has you be the center of the universe, It's only a matter of time before that will be right-sided, which is the way the universe works. So, don't get too caught up in measuring it with that immediacy, because at the end of the day, it's a long-term game, even if we're just talking about an individual lifespan of 60 to
Mhm.
70 years.
Yeah, that's a balanced perspective, right? Because it is long term, but it's also so short that you don't really wanna push off till tomorrow, 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 because then you eventually run out, right? And that's, I think, one of the things that I work on, and I'm constantly aware of, is trying to balance. Okay, there's an immediacy, but there's also planning and realizing, okay, maybe I didn't get it today, but I worked hard and I learned something about it today, and maybe that lesson I apply tomorrow gets me a little closer.
Yeah, it's perspective, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's funny, we're this conversation that we're having is all interconnected from the very beginning all the way to here. It's a process, and it starts with there is no direct line to, if we want to call a dream, goal, or desire as our endpoint or target. It's not a straight line. If you look at history or you look at any journey of success, it's funny. I just recently got turned on to Arsenio Hall's autobiography that recently came out. And those who know anything about Arsenio Hall, they know his late night TV show and everything
Yeah.
else. What they don't know is the journey that it took in order to get there. And so when you look at anybody who has any level of significant acclaim measurably, all you have to do is research the story of where they came from, and you're going to see it wasn't a straight line. And oftentimes it looks like, um, I don't know if you've ever seen a graph, and let's take, if we're measuring it in an hour, it can look like this, be very high and low and high and low. But when you start spreading that same thing out over years or decades, what you see is a line that starts at the bottom and then it just keeps climbing. But in that, it looks like, oh my God, I'm on top of the world over here. And then, oh, this is the worst thing that ever happened. And then you climb back up and it just keeps moving. Right.
Right.
And from that standpoint, that's again where the highs are going to be high, the lows are going to be low, but you're growing through the whole thing when you keep your eye on the prize and you have clarity on what it is that's important to you at any given point in time.
So let me follow up on that, Brett. That's a great point, because I think that's sometimes where we struggle, is when we don't have clarity on what we're trying to get out of this life, what it is that we're actually moving ourselves towards, right? Because it's easy to get comfortable. It's easy to get complacent. It's easy to just settle into a routine. And next thing you know, you went from 30 to 55 in a blink of an eye. And now you're left with, man, what am I doing? So what would you say, or thoughts, or what's worked for you to maintain that clarity so that we know our days are leading in a place we're trying to get to?
Um, it's often been said, or at least I've heard it, that if you want to know where you're going, just look at the people that you're around. And if you're the smartest person in the room, or you're the most successful person in the room, or you're the whatever you want to call it, and you are the alpha and the omega, you need to get a new set of friends. And I don't mean dismiss your friends, but a new set of people in your life. When you do that, then it always allows you to learn from distinctions in people that you never considered, which then allows you to, how do I put it? It resets the framework in which you're even looking at where you're at, what you've done, and what you're up to, and it shifts that into possibility. It's like, wow. I remember a long time ago, one of the first goals that I had when I was young. It happened in 1977. I saw The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, and the short of it is, out of that, watching that little movie, I said, okay, I want to do three things. I want to own my own business one day. I want to serve millions of people and I want to make a ridiculous amount of money. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how I was going to do it or whatever. Well, my first benchmark coming out of college was to make $100,000 in a year. That six figure, it's like
Yep.
I've pseudo arrived. And I didn't do that for 13 years before I broke through. However, my good friend, who I ended up getting involved in chiropractic with, Dr. Ben Lerner, he did that shortly out of college, and he was a multimillionaire, one of the best chiropractors we have ever had. When I got around him, I hadn't been around people who were multimillionaires and who had built, tremendous businesses. I'd been around a lot of athletes who, in their own right, had done some amazing things, but not compared to the goals that I wanted. When I got around him, what I learned was this. I'm like, I know him. I've grown up with him. We are brothers from other mothers. And when I saw what he actually did, because he then became part of my sphere of influence, I'm like, I can do that. It removes this otherwise um, God complex that we put with people that have achieved as if, well, they're just better than me. They were born gifted and anointed. I could never do that. Like, look at little low, low me. When I started working with him, I had just left a job that topped out at $30,000. And here I'm now working with a multimillionaire. But when I saw the trajectory, when I saw the work, I'm like, I can do that. And so when you start shifting your sphere of influence, you start recognizing that the people that you otherwise put on a pedestal are just people just like you. And you can start learning what they've done differently that you can emulate or learn that you can apply to yourself in any direction that you want to take it. So get a new group of influences around you to start shifting what's possible without staying stuck in this is what I know.
Yeah, that's powerful and very well said. And I think that's one of the gifts we can maybe share with the world is to get them to see what's possible despite circumstances, right? And when people see, and that's the thing that scares me a little bit with the social media and the influence of everybody just getting highlight reels is maybe we can't identify with what's possible around us because we're not seeing the struggles. We're not seeing that the commonality of, man, we're very much alike. I just haven't done these small things that put me in a position to move where they're moving.
Jared, one of the things that, yeah, became a big breakthrough for me to remove people from a pedestal. One, being there at a minor level, I understood that I wasn't really any better than anybody else. I mean, I did things that were different, but I really wasn't better. But you get a sense of accomplishment and ego when that happens. One of the things that really, how do you put it, that really helped is I started reading autobiographies of people that I had a lot of respect for. And everything that I'm talking about right now, what you see is a common theme. I don't care whether it's Martin Luther King, whether it's, for me, some people that really stood out, uh, Barack Obama, a Sammy Davis Jr., a Colin Powell, you name it. I started reading an Oprah Winfrey, started reading their stories. And in every case, they always started from pretty much nothing before they then rose to a figure that we could then look at and emulate. And what that at least did for me, that I want to share with all of our listeners, is they have a journey that they went on that anybody, if they wanted that, many people could emulate. There's things that you can learn from what they did to take them off of this pedestal and put them right next to you. Because if that's what you want to do, it just depends on what part of the journey you're on. But you don't start at the top. And that framework resets how you can look at yourself and give yourself love and credence for what you have done versus comparing yourself to somebody else, especially when you don't know their story, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. And in today's social media world, I don't have a percentage. I couldn't say that, but most of what we see is not even real life. It's the highlight reel, as you're saying.
Yeah.
So just uh, just do your own research,
Yeah, and embrace our own life, right? Like if I try to be you, Brett, one, I'm never gonna be you.
right?
And two, all the people around me that I could influence by being the best me are gonna lose out because they will never know me because I'm trying to be something else.
It's crazy, isn't it? You know, um, so in my book, I did my best to share the perspectives that we're talking about right now. And for me, research and getting facts is very powerful versus just theory or stories or whatever. As best as we know, there's been between 90 billion to 120 billion human beings on planet Earth in its history of humankind, of man, woman, people. In that time period, there's never been a duplicate. Like we have doppelgangers, we have people who looked like us and everything else, but I don't care if you're twins. And I know a
Yeah.
lot of really powerful twins in the wrestling community, the Brands brothers, the Schultz brothers, the Manic brothers. There's just a lot of them. They're still not the same person. And so the first thing is to acknowledge that our creator made you as an individual like no other human being in the history of our world that we know it ever. So you are a one of one miracle. And when you start to see all of the things that had to happen for you to even show up, and I don't care how that happened, it just can really highlight the power that you can start to pull towards yourself and remove what you've otherwise bought from what somebody else said, and I'm not good enough and I'm not pretty enough and everything else, and just go, well, yeah, I like there is only one me. So why don't we start there? And then you can start looking in your life and see things that you've done that stand out that people have acknowledged you for. Wow, great job on that test. Or you know what? I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. The acknowledgement that your friends or your brothers or sisters or mothers give you, they're not giving it to you to make you feel good. They're giving it to you because that's what you provided for them that if you were not there would not have been possible for them. So you are amazing. You are one of one. You are one of 120 billion people, and there's never been a duplicate. So let's start there. The impact that you have would not be able to put in motion everything that's occurred within your life from those that you're surrounded with and that you influence. So give yourself tip of the hat to everyone listening to this. Start there and remove what other people have said about you if you don't feel great about yourself, and just know that if there's two of us, Jared and Brett, and hopefully your mom and dad and family think the same, uh, you are amazing.
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. And then if you're listening today and you're like, man, today's a great day. I feel like I got the juices going. I'm on top of the world. Go share with some people around you what they mean to you, because maybe they need to hear that today.
Oh, oh my gosh. My mom would always used to say, give people flowers while they're here rather than lie them on their grave. And it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a grand gesture or we have to do something fantabulous. All it takes is picking up a phone and saying, hey, you know what? I may not have told you this in a long time, but I just want to tell you I love you. Or, you know what? I know that you may not know this, but I want to tell you the impact that you had. I had when I was working at USA Wrestling and I was learning from the best coaches and athletes and nutritionists and everything in the world at that time. One thing that stood out to me that I got that was so powerful was learning from Bobby Douglas, who just recently
Yeah.
passed away. And he was talking about his coach in high school was a Hall of Fame coach who had developed Hall of Famers in both baseball, football, and wrestling. And one day, Bobby was struggling with one of his kids early in his coaching career, and he goes back to his coach, who was still a mentor of his, and he goes, "Hey, you know what? I've really been working with this kid, but I don't know if I really helped." And his coach started laughing at him, and he goes, "Bobby, let me tell you a story. Do you remember?" And it was a teammate of theirs back in the '60s. And Bobby's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I remember him." He goes, "Well, guess what? About a year ago, he came back to me and he goes, 'Hey, coach,' he ended up going into the military, fought in the Vietnam War, and made a terrific career for himself after that. And he goes, 'Hey, coach, I just wanted to acknowledge and let you know that if it wasn't for what you said, then I wouldn't have been able to make it through Vietnam. I wouldn't have been able to have the family and the career that I had.'" And he looks at Bob and he goes, "You know what, Bobby? I don't know what I said. You never know how far reaching something you think, say, or do today will impact the lives of millions tomorrow." And so there's a lot of people who have impacted your life, my life, and everyone who's listening that have no idea the impact that you've had for them. So pick up the phone and go, "Hey, you know what? I know you may not know this, but if it weren't for what you said or what you did, it made me make a different decision. And that has led to finding the love of my life or the career of my life, or I moved here and I didn't know this was possible." Like, have that gratitude because it always comes back. It always
Hmm.
comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. Brett, as we get close to wrapping up, what's something you hope people listening today realize about their own potential?
That it's limitless. However, it depends on where you're at. And what I mean by that is your belief in its limitlessness. You might be at a point in time where you're like, you know what, that time has passed for me. And again, that's where going to autobiographies and looking at people who started later in their life, like a Colonel Sanders, for example, or a Ray Kroc, for example, people that we know of. Again, they're not special, but they are examples of somebody who started later and now they just took the lid off of it and go, why not me? And so, what I'd love for everyone to get is again, you're magnificently and wondrously made. And no matter where you're at this point in time, you're here for a purpose. That no matter whether you think your life has been worthy, not worthy, good, bad, without you, everything that you've touched, everyone that you've been involved with would not have occurred the way that it has. And so if you just pause for a moment, be still, and you go back to a time of joy or happiness in your life or dreams that you had and reconnect with those and don't keep them buried in a box, but take that box back out and open it up and go, maybe my time's passed, but what if I could? And then, well, if I could, would I? And if the would I is what I'd like to, then start finding people who have done it. Find somebody who has already done it, which is a tenet, a principle that I have in my book, because they're going to be able to go, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for you to give me a call. Let me tell you what you could do. As a matter of fact, I have a running club or a cooking club, or we're going on a travel deal, or we need somebody just like you to support what we want. And all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
because as soon as you take that lid off, you'll start attracting the people, the circumstances, the materials, the opportunities that otherwise will not be available to you only because you won't see them based on you're only looking for what's not working. And I guess that's not for me anymore.
Right.
Take off the lid and keep dreaming, baby.
I love it. Brett, where can our audience follow along on your journey? Where can they get the book?
You bet. Well, they can get the book on Amazon, Larger Than Life in Pursuit of Discovering Your Full Potential. Amazon is the Goliath, and I'm so thankful to be on there. That's the easy button. Um, I also have a website, belargerthan.com. Pretty easy to find. And there I'm really committed to supporting entrepreneurs to discover their full entrepreneurial potential and to pass that baton forward and have them build businesses through their gifts and their services and their products that can then serve all of us as humanity, and that's worldwide. So, uh, find me online, find me in Amazon, and keep it moving.
I love it. I got one final question for you, Brett. What does living larger look like for you in the ordinary parts of your day?
Doing your best to be your best and recognizing when you're not and just, uh, yeah, correcting it as best as possible. Listen, no one gets everything right all the time. And we learn more from, again, I ain't never learned nothing in good times. We learn more from our quote unquote mistakes or learning lesson
Yep.
than we do from our victories. But if our intention is to be our best and we all are doing our best, but we know, our spirit knows when we're actually putting our best effort forward to do that. It doesn't mean that it's action or activity. It means that our best could be just being present with our family. Being our best could be just listening to somebody or reaching out or getting help or talking, or our best could be not being judgmental towards somebody. There's so many ways that shows up, but just do your best to be your best that you know is capable for you, and the world will be a much better place.
I love it. Brett, thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been an honor to share your story, and we wish you the best, my friend.
Well, thank you, Jared. Thank you so much for having me. And hopefully, what we have shared today will make a magnificent difference in the lives of all of these incredible human beings listening.